There we go. Okay. So as I say, thanks Ken, thanks for the introduction. Team culture is going to be what we're looking at tonight, discussing, and hopefully we'll do a few Q&As at the end of the session. As Ken said, I've been involved in rugby for a long time, over 25 years, and I've seen a real revolution in team culture from the amateur era when it was all passion and aggression, right up to the modern era now where team culture incorporates so much more. There's so much more education, so much more learning, so much more growth in it for full-time players. And all those situations need to be manufactured to allow those players to grow. So I've been lucky enough to see that evolution from the amateur days right through to the modern game. I've been involved with some incredible clubs and teams over that period of time, as Ken mentioned. And I'm going to pick 3 distinct areas this evening. So there'll be an area that Ken mentioned when Glasgow won the Pro 12 in 2015, and that was under head coach Gregor Townsend. We'll look at another area under Dave Rennie when we got to the Pro 14 final last year in Glasgow. And then we'll take that forward to modern day now when under Coach Douglas, working here at Old Glory. So we'll look at those 3 distinct areas over the course of the presentation. So just to give you a quick run through what we're going to do this evening, or what I'm going to do. First of all, we're going to ask the question, what is team culture? I'm then going to tell you what I think team culture is, and that's a very simple, very straightforward answer. We're going to have 3 slides that look at why we bother, why we care about team culture, why do we do it. We're going to have a look at another slide that tells us and asks the question or shows us how we create it. How do we create these opportunities? And the last slide in that area is what that looks like in practice. So what things do we actually do on a day-to-day basis to allow team culture to grow and to develop? We're then going to jump onto the basics, or what is I call the basics, which is the team ethos, the team standards, the team rules, the team duties, the team clans, and we're going to spend a few moments looking at them. And then, as I say, the last few slides will be focusing on 3 key areas. And what we'll hopefully look at is how the words, the learnings, the discussions, how we've brought them to life, or how we're looking to bring them to life and to create a team culture. And that's what we'll look at over the last 3 slides. Before we do all that, I have a short video. Greg Woolard, who's the analyst at Glasgow Warriors, has pulled together a brief video, and hopefully it encompasses quite a lot of what we're trying to achieve and what we're trying to do in a team culture. So we'll look at this. I think it's about 5 or 6 minutes. We'll look at that and then we'll jump onto the slides. The first couple of seconds are a bit quiet, so hopefully you can hear Coach Douglas speaking.
And because we're wanting to build something pretty special here, one of the big reasons you're here is because of your character. The ability to play rugby is important, but more so your character. You're here, you treat people today and from now on and show them the same respect that you wish to see for yourself. It's our ability from now on to want to work hard for each other and to want to sacrifice for each other. And that's going to be our key difference.
Inspiring their community and respecting their history, the Warriors put their bodies on the line, fighting for their families and their city. And now, in 2019, a new era begins for Glasgow Warriors. Scotstoun Stadium is their home, their fortress, and to defend it, they will do whatever it takes.
Yes! Yes! Woo!
Okay, hope you enjoyed that. And as I say, thanks to Greg Willard who pulled that. He pulled a Glasgow video and he pulled in some clips from the Old Glory boys for us as well. So he's done a great job. Thanks, Greg. Hopefully that encompassed what we're trying to achieve here. Lots of rugby, lots of hard work, lots of stuff outside rugby, lots of fan engagement, kids involvement, clubs involvement. That sort of encompasses team culture for me, and that's what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to achieve those opportunities. So this slide here, the point of this slide here is, I Googled this and I just cut and pasted it off Google. And it basically tells you what culture is and what team culture is. And it's pretty straightforward and it's pretty accurate. Culture's a way of life for particular groups of people. It includes everything they say and they do, its beliefs, its attitudes, its feelings, its moral code, its standards and its values. And culture is learned and passed from generation to generation or from team to team, from player to player. So it's quite straightforward. The point of this slide for me is anybody on this call just now, given a couple of hours, could pull together a pretty decent and a pretty substantial team culture presentation. It is not rocket science. It is pretty straightforward. It changes from team to team, from club to club, obviously. But the basics are pretty straightforward and they remain the same across the board. For me, the important part of team culture is taking those words, taking the stuff that's pretty obvious, and it's how you bring that to life. It's how you create the opportunities to create that team culture, to let players grow, to let them learn, to let them get better and create that better team. That's the really important bit. We've all seen a million posters. We've all seen the words. If I jump back to that slide, honesty, communication, trust, respect, enjoyment, resilience, hard working. I'm sure we've all seen them a million times, but it's how we bring that to life. So why do we do it? I said earlier we're going to look at why we do this. So why do we concern ourselves with team culture? Why is it important? And again, these are my thoughts. The great thing about team culture is you're not often wrong. The team culture is specific to you. It's specific to your club. It's specific to the people of the area that you play in or you belong to. So culture changes. So I must stress that these are my opinions. This is my thoughts. This doesn't mean to say, obviously, it's the only way to do it. It's really important that you add your own twist to your club culture and your team culture. So why do we do it? We need to understand what we're playing for. So that means if you come into an area, if you're a foreign player or you come from out with an area, you need to have an understanding of the area, the club that you're playing for. You also need to understand who you're playing with. You need to understand the coach, the owners, the GM, the other staff members, the other players. You need to be given opportunities to learn and to grow with them so you understand who you're playing with. That makes you feel more connected as a group. That's why we concern ourselves with team culture. If we are connected as a group, if we develop trust, and those two bottom lines become really important, they're really important. And the most important one for me is the second bottom one. Allows you to have a moments of adversity that you couldn't have in other settings. So we want to build an environment where players are comfortable enough to make mistakes. When they make a mistake, they're going to grow, they're going to learn, they're going to become more confident players, more confident team members. So that's why we bother with team culture. That's why we do it. We want players, we want staff, we want coaches, we want everybody to be comfortable in that environment. We want them to be able to make mistakes, be able to grow, to be able to learn. Now the bottom one I've got to stress as a coach's takeaway. As a manager, I do not want any players taking any risks at any time. I'm a manager, I'm risk averse. I don't like it. But as a player, as a coach, and I'm sure Coach Douglas will back me up, he wants his players to be able to take risks on the park. Absolutely take those risks. Now, if that player is not confident, isn't comfortable in his environment, he probably won't take that risk on the pitch. So the growing process, the learning process, the training process allows that player to take those risks on the pitch. Better player, better teammates, better team, better club. That's the whole point. So how do we create these situations? And the first two are really topical now, if you look at them, given what we know now with COVID-19. So the thing that we encourage the most in our environments, and I've always encouraged them, and the head coaches I've worked under and encourage it, is close physical proximity, eye contact, physical touch, handshakes, hugging, high fives. Some of the players in the team have a different handshake for every single player and every single member of management in the team. They cuddle, they touch, they're with each other all the time. And that develops a bond, it develops trust, it develops a relationship. Now, given what we know now about COVID-19, we might have to look at different ways we do that. If we're going to introduce rugby again in the near future, we need to have a rethink about that. So that's quite an interesting point. The mixing, as I say, we mix the players, we take them out of their comfort zone. We don't let players sit in their where they're comfortable, sitting with their best friend or the person they might share the car with or share a flat with, an apartment. We mix them up. In the meeting environment, lots of meetings, lots of questions, and the most important point, the active listening part. So we actively encourage the players to be involved. We keep them involved in the meeting. The coaches, any of the coaches that are presenting, actively involve the players. Some of the players might present part of the meeting. So we encourage that. So nobody's left out, nobody's sitting there quiet, they're all involved. And lastly, we encourage the players to be together away from rugby. A bit of fun, a bit of laughter, social interaction, hugely important for creating that bond, for creating that trust. Where you get a real benefit there away from rugby, you might have a young player who maybe isn't confident when he first comes into the rugby environment. He's maybe a first year professional and he's in with guys like Mungo Mason and Threaten Palamo. And he might not feel confident. You take him out of that environment, you take him away and maybe goes to the cinema, he goes to watch another sporting event and he becomes a bit more relaxed. Players get to learn a bit more about him. When he comes back into the rugby environment, training the next day, there'll be a different perception. Boys will have a different opinion of him. So then he might relax, he might become a better player. You know, he might move on, take a step forward. So getting players out of the rugby environment into a different environment is really important. So in practice, what does it actually look like? So these are just some of the ways I've done it, we've done it. We certainly do all of these at Old Glory. We've done them at Glasgow. I've done them with Scotland Sevens as well. So the easiest way, new players come in, they get a few Q&As from the skipper, or they stand up and they give a speech. Again, it's a terrifying prospect for any young player coming in, but it breaks the ice, gives the boys a laugh. And again, it's just breaking down those barriers and giving an opportunity for us to find out more about each other, good or bad. So again, it's building that trust and it's building that comfort zone that players are comfortable with. It's really important. Similarly with relationship meetings, it's really important that players get the opportunity to leave and go outside rugby and discuss and chat and find out more about each other outside the rugby environment. That can be done in team units. It can be done in your apartment blocks, whatever way the coach wants to split it up. That can be manufactured by the coach. If there's a particular issue, if there's a group of players that are mixing or you want players to mix, the coach can manipulate that to suit. The sheriff's meetings, the fines are a bit of fun. So this year we had a great sheriff at OG. We had Josh Brown, who had the sheriff's badge. He ran the fines committee. Great bit of fun, always a bit of hilarity with the boys. However, a really serious side to it, and it's the accountability and the standards. So while we have the fines and while we have the sheriff's meetings, there's a real serious side there, and it's the players self-monitoring and looking after the standards. So any standards that have been set, any team culture ethos that we have, there's an opportunity there for the boys to make sure that they regulate that and make sure that the standards are kept high. The Amazing Race, you've seen a clip of that on the video. Great educational tool. Andrew brought that in, Coach Douglas's idea. The boys had to go around DC in their teams. They had to find historical sites. They had to interact with the public. They were all logoed in their Old Glory kit. So lots of learning, not just about DC, but about each other, and a bit of marketing as well. We got the name of Old Glory, a new team in the city, got it out there in the community. So a great way of getting the boys out and getting them to know each other. Other sporting events. What a great city to be a sports fan. There are innumerable opportunities for boys to go and watch other sports, again, with each other. The point is being out of the rugby environment, being in a different environment and learning more about each other. Post-match winning song, again, always great to have a winning song. I've got to be honest, this year's was terrible. If I have anything to do with it, that song is going to go in the bucket. I don't know if Coach Douglas agrees with me. It was absolutely a horrible song. However, that was not the point. The fun, the enjoyment, the laughter, the boys wrote the song themselves. So that whole bonding session to prepare that song was a great process, even though I didn't like the end product. The process was there, and they had great fun doing it. Post-match functions, family and friends events. We've discussed this previously on a couple of meetings, and it's not always possible to have post-match functions depending on which level of rugby you're involved at. However, that doesn't take away from the importance of them. It's really important that we get an opportunity to share everything we do with friends and family, fans and sponsors. It's a really important part of what we do. It keeps the players grounded. It makes them realise that there's life outside of their bubble, the professional bubble that they're in. It's also a great opportunity to thank people, to thank family and friends and sponsors and fans, and get them involved with the team post-match. Similarly, if we just look at the friends and family on their own, again, a bit more personal. It's really important. Over the past 3 or 4 years, with the coaches that I've worked with Andrew, Dave Rennie and Gregor Townsend, they've all put a massive importance on friends and family and creating family events. So wherever we can, whenever possible, we bring friends and family into the environment, we thank them, and we make sure they understand how important they are in the lives of the players. The best examples of the friends and family events, just before COVID hit, Andrew had the partners and the players up to his apartment with a barbecue on the roof overlooking the city, which was fantastic. Dave Rennie at Glasgow, every year used to have Christmas dinner for the overseas players. So anybody that didn't have any family in Scotland, Dave Rennie invited them to his house. I think he had 16 one year, overseas boys. And Darren Coleman, our team manager here, done a similar thing this year at Christmas. Had the guys from overseas out to the farm for Christmas dinner. Again, a really small thing, but really important, just to keep that sense of family together. It's a really important thing to do. So jumping on to the basics, I mentioned the basics at the start. So this for me is just things, and I'm sure everybody does this, and everybody has done it countless times. But there's just 2 examples here. So the basics that I'm talking about are basically your code of conduct, your team ethos, your club ethos, and then we're going to look at your teams within teams. So your duty groups, your clans, your teams, whatever you want to call them within your club. So the first part is these club ethos here. So we've got two versions here. You probably won't be able to read the Glasgow Warriors one on the left. Probably the writing's a bit small. But it doesn't really matter. The content isn't really the point here. The point is the difference between the two of them. So on the left, you've got the Glasgow Warriors players' ethos. And that's basically a bullet point list of everyday duties that the Glasgow Warriors players want to take, make sure were taking place. So it could be tidying the gym, it could be tidying the office, clearing the kitchen, the dress code, timekeeping, whatever it was, it's on that bullet point list, and it's very, very specific. So every day the players have a clear understanding of the standards that were to be upheld within the environment. And on the right, you've got the Old Glory Code. Now it says exactly the same thing, but it's written in a completely different way. It's really personal to the individual. So the Old Glory Code is all about you as an individual. So it talks about you're accountable, you're responsible. It talks about respecting your brothers and others, finding solutions, always putting the team first, being inclusive. So it's a really personal list of club ethos. Completely different to the Glasgow one, but getting to the same point and stating the same thing. Two things I want to point out about these documents. First of all, these are prepared by the players. So the players at the start of the season have full input into these and prepare these documents, and they come out with this finished article. So that's great because you can hold the players to account, and you can, the coach, if a player maybe isn't acting as he should, training hard or stepping out of line a little bit, the coach can fall back on these codes and hold the player to account. And because the players have written the code, you know, it's very easy to pull them up on it and ask them if they're upholding the standards. The second point, and it's a great point, the manager, normally myself, pulls the finished article together. So there's an opportunity there for the manager or the coaching team to influence. So if we think the players have maybe missed something really important, we can slip that in and the players will be none the wiser. Similarly, we can remove something. If we think the players have maybe put something in that's a bit risky or maybe shouldn't be there, we can remove it. And because we're collating information, the players will probably be none the wiser. So there's a little bit of manipulation there to suit everybody's needs. However, the main point here is the players produce 99.9% of that, and that's the really important bit, so we can hold the players to account. The second bit of the basics for me is the teams within teams, as I called them. In Glasgow, they were called clans, obviously, because they're from Scotland. So there you have your 4 clans: Clan MacArthur, Clan Campbell, Clan McDowell, Clan Cameron. So these have got really more than one use here. So the first thing is obviously you split the boys into groups. There's automatic competition there. So the coach can use these teams to build competition in everyday training environments, whether it's tidying up or warming up games or games at the end of the training session, whatever it is. The boys are split into teams, they can compete, you can have winners and losers, and it's just a great way of motivating to keep the boys on their toes. There's also a really good educational part here. And if I just skip, you'll see what I mean. If I skip between the clans, and there's the Old Glory version. So there's the Old Glory teams there, the colours of Old Glory, and we've named the teams after the 4 presidents that are on Mount Rushmore: Washington, Roosevelt, Lincoln and Jefferson. So that's not done by accident. You know, there's a reason behind that, and there's a reason that we pick those clans, because we ask the players to go away and look and study a bit on the history. So they find a bit about the history of Scotland. They find a bit about the clans, where they were from, what their motto or on their crest stood for, what it means to people in that part of Scotland. So again, that goes back to understanding who and what you play for. And it's terrific for players, especially players that come from other parts of the country or even other parts of the world. When they come in to an area, it's really important to understand what they're playing for and who they're playing for. it usually goes one step too far. In Glasgow, for example, what I've found over the years is players that come in, they end up knowing much more and they visit many more places than I've been. And they end up being much more knowledgeable on local history, which is a great thing, because I think when you're in a country for so long, you take it for granted. So the educational side of it is really important. And as I said, there's the Old Glory version. So the 4 teams split over with the presidents. And again, there's a bit of studying, a bit of learning there. We, Coach Douglas and myself, when we were picking the teams, Andrew was leading it, and we obviously took a bit of advice on how and who we should name the teams after. And obviously the 4 presidents there were the obvious choice. But again, myself and Andrew had to do a bit of research on that. So again, it was good for us, it's good for the players, it's good for our learning. So that was the basics for me, is the team code and the team within teams. The next bit is the 3 areas of my coaching career where I've been, as I mentioned at the start, and what's important over those past 5 or 6 years. And I think when it all boils down, I think people, leadership, and trust are the 3 main pillars that I think are really important. Again, I need to stress, this is personal to me. It might be different in your life and in your work environment or in your club, and that's absolutely fine. And then the things that we've fallen back on and we've used to bring our team culture to life is the history, the community, and the family aspect. These are the 3 things that keep occurring no matter which team I'm in. These are the 3 things down the bottom that keep on appearing. They're always the constants. So I'd like to look at these 3 areas. In fact, I'm just going to dwell for a minute on trust and how important that is. I think if we fall back on the question, why do we concern ourselves with team culture? I think it boils down to trust. So you can look at all the other words, hardworking, honest, etc., etc. You can rhyme them off. I think those are very personal words. It doesn't matter if I might think I'm hardworking, that's irrelevant to everybody else. I might think I'm an honest person, it's irrelevant to everybody else. The thing about trust for me, trust is something between 2 or 3 people. It's between 2 individuals, or it's between a group of people. And it's earned. You earn trust. So the best example I can give, am I 100% honest with Coach Douglas? Absolutely not. You know, Coach Douglas gets to know what he needs to know because Coach Douglas has got other stuff to be getting on with. Now, does Coach Douglas trust me to get on and do my job? Well, I hope he does now. I hope he understands, and I hope he understands that he doesn't need to know everything, but he's got to trust me to do my job. So it doesn't matter if I think I'm honest, you know, but it does matter that I'm trusted by Coach Douglas, and I've got to earn that trust by getting on with my job and getting things done to his satisfaction. And that takes a period of time. We've only known each other a year, probably 6 months properly. So do we trust each other yet? A little bit. There's probably more to come, but we've only known each other 6 months. So trust is really important. I think that's, in a nutshell, that's why we try and build this team culture. We want that trust, and not just between myself and Andrew. That's got to run between Andrew and the captains, the leadership groups, and ultimately between the players. And I think that's where we start developing our team culture. Okay, so the first thing I thought was important was people. And I'm going to discuss, as I've mentioned, 3 groups of people this evening. So the 3 groups are the group of people that we won the Pro 12 with in 2015, the group in the middle there, which was Dave Rennie's group. We got to the final last year in Glasgow of the Pro 14, and then the group of chaps on the right there, the Old Glory group. Now, as I mentioned, people are really important, and I've been really, really lucky to work with 3 fantastic groups of people. And I'll tell you how important to me people are. I made the decision to move to DC based on the people I met. The club didn't exist. The club had played a handful of games. But I made the decision to come to DC based on the people I'd met. So I'd met the leadership, I'd met Chris and Paul, I'd met Andrew, and I'd met a few staff behind the scenes. And that was enough to convince me that it was worth moving over to DC. So people in the organisation are hugely important. And I think it's the more people you have on side, the more people you have sharing your vision, the easier it's going to be for you to grow and develop your team culture. So it's hugely important. I think we all know, without dwelling on it too long, we'll have people, and we're not going to have everybody on side. We're not going to have all the same vision, but we need to have as many as we can. And it's important that we have great leadership within those groups to convince and take people with us. On that note, leadership is massively important. So within the organisation, within the culture, there needs to be somebody that takes leadership of it and drives it. Now for me, again, this is a personal view, it's always been the head coach. The head coach drives that. You can have many great people in the organisation like we have at Old Glory now, Kristen Levy and Paul Sheehy, two incredible individuals, passionate rugby men who drive the club forward. But on a day-to-day basis, it's the head coach who's in there and driving the standards, driving the ethos, driving the culture. So it's really important you have the best leadership you can. Gregor on the left, blue sky thinker, growth mindset, incredible player back in the day, and he's continued that as a coach, always looking for the next big thing, you know, always looking forward. Hard work for a manager, if I'm honest, because he was never happy with what he had. He was always looking for the next big thing, as I say, and that made the manager's life a bit hard at times. But for me to grow and to learn in that culture, it was a great thing. Dave Rennie in the middle is quite simply the best coach I've ever worked with. Dave's ability to tell a story, to engage people, whether that be staff or players or sponsors, his ability to take people with him is second to none. Hugely confident in his own ability, and just a general good man, and that comes across in spades. So it was a pleasure to work with Dave. And then on the right, we've got Coach Douglas. So I think the best or the biggest compliment I can give Andrew is that when I met Andrew, I've seen a lot of Dave Rennie's traits in the way Andrew conducted himself, both on and off the pitch. And considering what I've just said about Dave Rennie, I think, as I say, that's probably the biggest compliment I can give Andrew. Both from the same part of the world, Waikato in New Zealand, both school teachers, both very smart men, and both have a very, very similar approach to how they want to play rugby. And again, jumping back to that risk-taking, as you maybe seen with the style of Old Glory last year, we certainly wanted to play a bit of rugby, and Dave was very similar at Glasgow. Made a lot of mistakes, but the ups were far more than the downs. So yeah, I think that's probably the best compliment I can give Andrew. So leadership is really important within your team. Allied to that is your skippers, your player leadership. So once you've established your leaders and who they are within your club, your club captains, your player leaderships are really important. And it's progressed over the years as rugby has. So you've got Al Kellick there, who lifted the trophy in 2015. He's an old school captain, didn't actually start the game that day. He started on the bench, but he was the club captain. He was the go-to for everybody. And he took everything on his shoulders. Big man, confident player, great boy to have about. But what we have now, so the two guys in the middle and the two guys on the right, we've got the dual leadership model. Rugby's moved on so much now. There's so much information. There's so much to do that a lot of coaches go for this dual leadership model, and it's just basically spreading the load. But the main thing for me about player leadership is the individuals you select to be your captains, to be your player leaders. They have, first of all, they need to be in line with your leadership, as in your head coach. They need to be 100% on board. They need to trust the head coach. They need to have bought into his environment, his way of thinking, and his direction. That needs to be non-negotiable. They need to be on side. And secondly, they need to be able to convince the rest of the players and bring them on board as well. So your choice of skipper, choice of captain is really, really important. And as with the groups I've worked with, I've been really fortunate to have some incredible captains over my management career. Lastly, if you just need to look, and you'll all know Threaten and Mungo from this season, two unbelievable individuals. And I don't think we could have picked a better pair of captains. So again, hugely important. But the big thing is the trust and the connection with the head coach and the leadership. Really important. Similarly with leadership, it disseminates down a little bit even further. So underneath your skippers, underneath your captains, you have player leadership groups. Now the coach, the leader, whoever is in charge of training at your club, the director of rugby, it's up to them how he or she creates the leadership groups. But the main reason we do that remains the same. It engages players, it makes them feel important, gives them a bit of accountability, makes them feel competent, makes them feel in charge of their outcomes, gives them responsibility. The most important point for me as a manager is the fourth one down, the one about standards, regulating training and environment. So again, I don't want as the manager to be constantly walking about hounding players for things they're not doing. That needs to come from within. So the point of your leadership groups, if you pick the correct leaders, that standards, the regulation at training and maintaining the standards at environment, hopefully they take care of that. But again, you've got to select the right players. I think it's a good place to pause as well about leadership groups and who are your leaders. Now, I'm very aware that I'm discussing a professional environment. And I spoke to Ken about this. I ran through this presentation a couple of weeks ago now. And we spoke about leadership. And it's a really good question to ask yourself. Even if you've got a team of 5, 6, 7-year-olds, are there leaders within your team? Are there leadership responsibilities within your club? My answer would be, of course there are, relevant to that age group and relevant to the team you have. There's always a role to be found for leadership within a team, whether it's somebody helping with the kit and equipment, somebody tidying them up after training, somebody, maybe one of the bigger players mentoring one of the smaller players that isn't so confident. There's definitely room for leadership right from the youngest age group all the way through. But it has to be relevant, it has to be specific to their age group. And everybody will take that in a different way. Again, the plan would be there is to identify leaders at a younger age group. So when they do come through, become young men or young women, they're 13, 14, 15-year-old, if they've had a little taste of leadership, regardless of how small that taste is, they'll hopefully be more confident individuals the older they get. And then your leadership team grows through your club and you'll end up with a cascade of people that are confident and that have the ability to take the club and lead the club. And that's why we want leaders identified at a younger age. Okay, so the last little bit, so I think the last 3 or 4 slides, after saying all that and talking about why we do it and how we do it, so I'm just going to show you a couple of clips, a couple of slides from each era. And again, it's just a little bit of how players' words and players' meetings and coaches' thoughts have developed into physical things and how they look in the environments I've been in. So the first one we're going to look at is Gregor Townsend's era at Glasgow. So Glasgow's motto, and still is to this day, whatever it takes. Now again, everything I'm going to show you here, as I've mentioned previously, like the ethos, this is all developed by the players. It can be led, it can be instigated by the leadership, whether that's your GM or your head coach or your president or your owner, whoever you deem to be the leader in your club. It can be instigated by them, but it's hugely important the players are allowed to be involved and develop this. So everything I'm going to show you and everything I have showed you in this presentation, the players have been fully involved in through the entire process from start to finish. So jumping back to this, whatever it takes is Glasgow's saying, and it is to this day. And that was a saying that was brought in by the playing group at the time, probably about maybe 10 or 12 years ago. So they brought in whatever it takes, and they wanted something physical. They wanted an object that they could see every day. So they decided on the archway. Now that archway still sits at Scotstoun to this day. There's a new one at the stadium, at the tunnel when the boys run out, but this one still sits over in the corner at Scotstoun. And they wanted something physical, so when they ran out, they could see it, and they ran out to training, they could touch it. And they also added their signatures and some words to it. So again, there was just a connection there. So when they would come out of their team meetings and they discussed being the hardest working team and doing your recovery and being a good player and working in the community, they wanted something that reminded them of that, a physical thing, and they come up with this archway. And because they'd signed it and put the words on it, and because they'd seen it every single day when they ran out to train, it was a really good reminder. Now, the one thing you can't see there, and it's an addition to this archway, is the other words that you see on the right there, privileged to play. Now, a couple of years after the archway was built, Glasgow had a player called Tom Evans, who unfortunately got seriously injured playing for Scotland down at Wales at the Millennium Stadium, and he finished his career. And during his recovery process, he came back into the Glasgow environment and he met the players, and he got up and he spoke to the players, basically saying thank you and goodbye, his career was over. And one thing that he mentioned during his chat to the boys was never to forget how privileged you are to play rugby. So the boys took that privilege to play line and they've put it on the other side of the archway. So when they run out, they see whatever it takes, but when they come back in, there's a reminder there saying you're privileged to play rugby, and that might have been your last time you ever play rugby. So again, it's taking that emotion, it's taking the words, and it's taking the feeling from a meeting or from a saying or from another person, and it's making it physical, and it's making it, turn it into a physical object. Lastly, on Gregor's era, the other thing that Gregor used was triple impact player. And again, this jumps back to the ethos of being a very personal thing. Improve yourself, improve your teammates, and improve your club. And it was a really strong message that Gregor spoke to the players every day about. And again, it was a really easy thing for Gregor to fall back on. So if a player was stepping out of line or maybe wasn't doing what he should do, Gregor would just ask him to remind the player to remind himself of the three values of the club: improving himself, improving his teammates, and improving his club. And it was a really easy way to check and balance a player's progression. So again, it's just bringing those things to life. And these would be in the changing room, they'd be in the kitchen, they'd be as you're running out to the pitch. So again, it's just another example of bringing something from a team meeting and bring it into life. So we just move on now to the second era at Glasgow under Dave Rennie. And I'm going to introduce you to Wally the Warrior. Wally is a Scottish name. It's Scottish for William. So it's actually William the Warrior, but we call him Wally, obviously. So this is an idea that Dave brought from the Chiefs in Super Rugby. So they've got Chiefs Mana. They had the Maori. They had a similar thing, but he was a Maori warrior, and he was very similar to this. So Dave presented this to the players at one of his first ever meetings, and the players took the Chiefs warrior, the Maori warrior. They took him away, the picture of him, and they met together on their own, and they eventually came up with our version of that warrior, and that's Wally the warrior, and that's the warrior you see in front of you now. So again, important things for me. One, the players were fully involved. They produced Wally the warrior. Wally the warrior to this day is up in the changing room at Scotstown. And Dave, as I said, was a great storyteller. Dave could bring Wally the warrior to life much, much better than I could. He would pick bits of Wally, bits of his traits out of him before a game and get the players absolutely buzzing. And because the players had produced Wally and put a bit of time into him, they understood the meaning behind it. So just to give you a bit of flavour of Wally the warrior, you'll see, first of all, it's got whatever it takes at the bottom, which is Glasgow's mantra to this day, as I mentioned earlier. You've also got the new values of the club: inspire our community, respect our history, fight for our family, defend our home. So it's got the 4 values of the Glasgow Warriors in the logo. The 3 mountains behind Wally signify the 3 trophies that Glasgow could win in a season. So it was the Pro 14 trophy, the middle one was the European Cup, and the peak on the right was the 1872 Cup, which is played between Glasgow and Edinburgh every year. So that was the 3 peaks. The flags in the background is Scotstown. The little peaks with the flags is actually Scotstown. And then he's standing on, and again, you probably won't be able to see this, but the names at the bottom underneath Wally's feet are the Centurions. So that's the names of all the players that have played for Glasgow over 100 times. So the meaning is there that Wally the Warrior is standing on the club history. He's standing on what went before him. So again, you're dipping back in to the players that have gone before you. One of the most interesting things about Wally that came directly from the Maori warrior was the dark and the light side. If you see his right hand side of his body is dark and the other side is light. So that's the distinguish between Wally the warrior on the pitch, where he's got a dark heart and a dark soul, and he's a bit of a warrior and he'll do whatever it takes to win. But he's got a light side as well. So when he's off the pitch, he's in the community, he's a good family man, and he looks after his teammates and everybody else. So there's a real split between Wally's dark side and his light side. Again, as I said earlier, Dave Rennie was a great orator, and he could bring Wally to life much better than I could. But that was the basic premise behind Wally the Warrior. But as I've mentioned throughout the presentation, the important thing is the players' input into that. So they had buy into that. And then when it was brought to life in the change room, the players had real affiliation with it. This is just a quick slide. Again, it's just a reminder of the club ethos, the community, the history, the home, the family. And again, those are words that are rife between all team cultures. I think you would pick them out. Any team culture, any words, any phrases, any posters you see will have community, history, home, family, all those sort of words in there. The reason I put this slide up though is if you see on the shield there, that's the old Glasgow Warriors logo. I don't know if you can make that out if your pictures are big enough. And then up in the top left is the new Glasgow Warriors logo. They went through a rebrand last season. And I hope it's not missed on you that the similarity between Wally the Warrior and the new logo. Now, the marketing team at Glasgow say it's just a coincidence that Wally the Warrior looks like the new Glasgow badge, but it's absolutely got an influence on it. And that's great. Again, because the players brought together Wally and brought it to life, they now see that in the club badge. So there's a real feeling of ownership there, and it's bringing that to life, which is a great thing. Last slide. Guess who? Old Glory DC, Coach Douglas. So everything we've spoken about up until now, the history, family, the area, Andrew, We had none of that when we arrived in Washington. The club didn't really exist. However, Mr. Dunleavy and Mr. Sheehy had the good sense and the foresight to call the club Old Glory. Now, for a team that's starting from nowhere with no history, it is a fantastic name to call a team. It gave Andrew an opportunity, it gave him a starting point. It gave him a starting point for a team culture, gave us something to build on. The colours and the description and the story of Old Glory fits perfectly with any team culture. So Andrew jumped on the back of that. The colours, the words associated to the colours, hardiness, valour, purity, perseverance, great words to tie in with team culture. So that's the starting point. The history, if we were going to be anywhere in America in terms of digging and looking and working out who you play for and what you play for, DC is the place to be. The history, as you will all know, much better than I do, is incredible. So again, the opportunity for us to create opportunities for players to learn, to grow, to understand what and who they're playing for is unbelievable. So thank you to the ownership group. And I must say, I spoke to Chris earlier in the week, the name wasn't an accident. There was a massive amount of research done. There was a bit of market research done. I think they had up to 12 names at one point for the club, but they eventually settled on Old Glory DC, and thank God they did, because it's a fantastic name. And it's something that we are going to run with. So the culture has started. You've seen the ethos previously, but it's something that we're going to grow and we're going to take forward, and we're going to be led by Andrew, who led it from the start, and we're going to take it forward. Are we a finished article? Absolutely not. We were only 5 games into our season. And hopefully we'll develop more and more opportunities next season when the players come back to take the team culture, take it forward, grow it, and develop it as we go. Done. 1 hour, 11 minutes.